Welcome everybody to a new episode of Sing Dancing, a pro-life podcast that wants to change hearts and minds regarding the pro-life topic, which is something very deep and very rooted in truth. And here we do this by sharing life stories, testimonies, and opinions. And today we are talking to Hayden Haddock, who is only 19 years old. He's a pre-med student. He wants to become a doctor, and he's already the founder and president of Students for Life at the University of South Alabama. And he also founded a Turning Point USA chapter. So Hayden, welcome on the podcast.
Thank you.
Hayden, you are an extremely young person and you have done quite a lot of activism already on your campus. Where have all this passion come from?
So I think originally I've always considered myself pro-life, but I never started really getting into it. And about the time I was 15 or 16, my faith really became my own and not my church's faith or my parents' faith or my friend's faith. It was like my faith, and I was 100% in for God, and I still am. But at that point, I started to just think a lot, and I remember praying to God one night, and I was like, God, break my heart for what breaks yours. And at this point in my life, I felt like I had no purpose, really. I did not know what my purpose was. But after I prayed that prayer, I remember finding pro-life organizations like Students for Life, Live Action, Let Them Live, March for Life. And I was just like, wow, I think this is what I'm supposed to do. This is where I need to go with my life. So that's kind of where my passion got started. And this was also during the COVID lockdowns, whenever everybody was at home and online all day. So I had a lot of free time to get into pro-life activism.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. And after this experience, maybe short, it will be long in the future, what does being pro-life mean to you now?
Being pro-life, it's a lot more than just being against the murder of innocent children in the womb. Of course, that's what pro-life means. But to me, being pro-life means also supporting women who find themselves in unplanned or crisis pregnancies, being there for women who aborted in the past and regret it. They were just tricked by the world that we live in to think that it was okay and to think that it was a good choice when it wasn't. We really need to support women who, in retrospect, know how wrong their decision to abort was. And then also just being pro-life for the whole life, with the rise of assisted suicide. I don't know how it is in Romania, but I know that there's people pushing for it in the United States and many countries in Europe and Canada, just around the world. Assisted suicide is being pushed, and I just cannot understand. God is the maker of life, and we need to keep it that way. He gives life, and let him take it away.
Yeah. No, I love that answer because it's so true that being pro-life is not just being against something, it's just being for something. And what are you for? Yes. For supporting women in order for them to support the life of their babies back. Actually, that's how we support in a concrete way life in the womb, by supporting women who need help so they can give birth and then they can raise their children, or maybe give them for adoption. But yeah, I love that answer. It's so important to underline this thing, what we are for, not what we are against, because being against something bad doesn't guarantee that you are for something good. So yeah, that's a wonderful answer. So How did you set up Students for Life South Alabama? Can you walk us a little bit through the process? Were there challenges? How did you overcome them? I think it's an interesting story.
So there were some obstacles. I actually founded the Turning Point USA chapter before I founded the Students for Life chapter. So I kind of knew the process, but it was still a little bit difficult. First, you have to have at least 10 members here. It's decently easy to get people to sign up and just be on a list if they don't have to do anything. So I had a lot of friends from church and just from like Bible study groups that were like, okay, yeah, that's cool. I'll be a part of it. So that part was easy. Then you have to have an executive board. So I was like, okay, I'm going to be the president. Got one. Now I need to find a vice president, secretary, treasurer, and for Students for Life, an outreach coordinator and March for Life coordinator. Those are our other positions. So that was a little bit more difficult, but of course you can find people to like sign up to do a role usually. And as it kept going on, you have to write a constitution, which I knew how to set it up from the Turning Point constitution. So that was relatively easy. I would send it in to student activities and then they would send it back if I needed to make any revisions. But I think I only had to make like 1 or 2 revisions to my Students for Life constitution. And they were like, okay, it's good. It's good enough now. And then they finally accepted us as an organization. But after we were officially accepted back in March, the guy who is over the student activities, he wanted us to come meet with him, just me and the vice president, but he wanted us to come in there and talk to him just about activism, things that we might do. And he was really supportive of having a Students for Life chapter. I don't know if he is pro-life himself, but he said he loves having different types of clubs and people with different perspectives on campus. So I appreciated that. One thing that kind of was the only pushback that we got was he asked us not to do a Cemetery of the Innocents. I don't know if y'all do those.
We don't.
In Romania.
We don't. I know what they are about because I follow Students for Life groups on Instagram. But can you tell for the people who don't know what this is about?
Yes. So for anyone who doesn't know what is it Cemetery or Graveyard of the Innocents? I think it's Cemetery of the Innocents.
I honestly don't know, but I think both works. Both.
I think Cemetery sounds better, but I'm not sure. But the Cemetery of the Innocents, you get these like paper gravestones and you just stake them in the ground wherever you decide to do it, on the side of the road, the quad on campus, just wherever you decide to do it. And you put up a sign beside it that says one grave or one gravestone equals however many aborted babies. That would be like proportional to the amount of gravestones that you have. So
is this for the United States or for that state particular that you're in?
It kind of just depends. So you could say one gravestone equals 100,000 babies aborted in Alabama since 1973. All right. Like you could make kind of whatever you want to, as long as it's accurate. But so back to the student activities guy talking about that. He asked us not to do it because it was just very disruptive. Apparently there was a Students for Life chapter here about 10 years ago that I did not know about. I'm not from anywhere close to the area, so I was not really aware of like the history, but they did a similar project and he viewed it as disruptive and he asked us not to do it. So of course I was like, okay, yes, sir. Even though I knew good and well that I was going to do it eventually one day because I have the right to do it because this is a public university and I'm a student and I pay to go here. So, but then I looked a little bit deeper into that. If I can go on a tangent for a second, I looked a little bit deeper into that instance that he was talking about with the Cemetery of the Innocents. And in 2013 or 2014, whichever year that it happened, the university shut that Students for Life demonstration, I guess you could call it. They shut it down. But then Students for Life of America, the lawyers, they came on and were like, no, we're not going to let this happen. And they took the case all the way to the Supreme Court, I believe, and Students for Life won. So I can refer back to the Supreme Court ruling if they have a problem in the future. We haven't done a Cemetery of the Innocents yet, but when we do, I will refer back to that Supreme Court case if I need to.
Yeah. And besides this particular activity, what other kinds of activities do you do on campus? How do you actually get students engaged?
So we're still a young organization, and we're trying to figure out what works to make people get more involved. We've had social events at this restaurant here called Cookout. It's pretty cheap. A lot of college students love it, and it's right off campus. So we just whenever we have cookout socials, we just sit around, talk about life, talk about pro-life activism, just different things like that. We have speakers sometimes. We recently had a state legislator that worked on the Alabama Human Life Protection Act, which outlawed abortion in the state. It was passed in 2019, but it went into effect after Roe v. Wade was overturned. And then also she co-sponsored the baby box bill, which is just a bill to I don't know if you've heard of baby boxes. I don't know if that's an American thing. Okay.
I've read lots about baby boxes. We don't have it in Romania. We try to, but we don't have it yet. So, but I know.
We don't have a lot of them now. But for anybody who doesn't know what a baby box is, it's kind of just a place. They'll be at hospitals, fire departments, just anywhere that's like safe to the community, where a mom who cannot take care of her child or her children can drop off the baby if she needs to anonymously. It's a sad situation, but it gives the baby an opportunity for life still. So in that way, it's a beautiful thing. So she, that state legislator worked on the baby box bill and the Human Life Protection Act. Other than that, we've just had general meetings. We've had a movie night for Unplanned.
Oh, great.
So everybody loves movie nights.
Yeah. I've seen Unplanned like 3 or 4 times now.
It's such a good movie. It's like my favorite movie.
You never get bored of it.
Oh, no. And then we're experimenting with new activities we can do. So I think at our next meeting, we're going to be painting rocks and writing pro-life messages on them and just putting them around campus.
Wow.
Some other clubs have done that with different things. And I was just like, what if we take this idea and make it pro-life?
Cool.
So I think that would get a lot of people involved. I love painting things. So let's hope everybody else does too. But like I said, it's a learning process. Not everything is going to work. Not every meeting is going to be the best one, so you just got to keep going.
Yeah. What year did you found the Students for Life at the university?
So I founded it technically this year, 2023. It was in the spring semester. It was in March, and now it's almost November. So however many months that makes it, 7 or 8 months old. I cannot do math today. I'm sorry.
You're a really young association, but I think you have loads of potential.
Yes.
So, yeah, hoping for the best in the future. Well, even if you're young, I'm pretty sure other students with other views already had some reactions. I mean, I don't think that cannot happen. So
Yes.
how do other students respond to your activity, and how do you deal with criticism? Because that's can be very discouraging for some people.
Yes, so we haven't had a whole lot of pushback yet, um, which we haven't existed for a very long time. So that could be part of the reason. But I think the most pushback we've ever gotten is just whenever we table and we're asking questions and people come and talk to us, um, and they just get very defensive of abortion. Um, and they just bring up these off the wall, like random scenarios in which they think abortion would be okay,
Mm-hmm.
and they use that to try to justify all abortion. But I think we haven't had anybody be like physically
Mm-hmm.
confrontational yet. They just yell a little bit, scream a little bit. It's not anything like bad that we cannot handle.
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't had anybody protest us yet, which is very like crazy to me, because we had a whole protest for against one of our Turning Point events when we watched What is a Woman.
Mm-hmm.
We had like 30 people at a protest against us for that, but for Students for Life we haven't had anybody yet,
Mm-hmm.
which is um, I don't know. I'm happy we haven't,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm surprised we haven't. And to answer the question about how do I deal with criticism, it's not fun, but I have an audience of one. It's just God. That is the only person I'm trying to please with my life. So I know He supports, He loves the message that I'm trying to spread. God loves life. So I'm not necessarily worried about what everybody at my university thinks about me.
Mm. Well, I think this should be an encouragement for other people, because not everybody is like this, and basically they have to know where the truth is, and where does their strength to do anything actually comes from, which is from God. And
Mm,
if they are called to do something like this, they should do it. And I think everybody is called to do pro-life in their life, whatever the area in which they work is, because you can say a good thing to a pregnant woman, a woman in crisis pregnancy, whatever you work. And I think you should stand up for life, whatever people say, and wherever you are. So you don't have to be fully
exactly.
involved in the pro-life mission in order to be pro-life. So, and I think
Exactly.
this should encourage people.
That's
Yeah.
that's a thing that I like to tell people. Whenever you sign up to be like in our chapter, you you're not signing your life away. Like you
Mm-hmm.
can still be a normal person. I'm still a normal person. I'm a pre-med student. Like I'm a busy normal person, and I still make time for this. It's not like a extremely time consuming thing. It's just like you are pro life and you want to spread the message. It's not very difficult, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you talked a little bit about the Turning Point USA chapter you had on your campus. I know this is not a prepared question, but can you tell us a little bit about it and what you're doing there?
So the Turning Point USA chapter here, Turning Point USA is kind of a similar thing to Students for Life. It's a nonprofit, but it's all conservative beliefs. It's not just pro-life
Mm,
activism. Of course, Turning Point is pro-life, and that's kind of why I started it first, because it's pro-life and it's all of these other values that I agree with. So I was like, I'm going to start this first, and then I'm going to start the Students for Life after that. But so they're very pro-life. They are pro Second Amendment, so keeping firearms and self defense. Pro America, just supporting like our country, like our government needs to support our own country. That's kind of what pro America means to Turning Point, and just pro individual freedoms, just having the ability to be yourself and not listen to what the world says. You know, be yourself and do what you want to in like reasonable limits. You know, don't just go crazy. But yeah, that's basically like the gist of what our Turning Point chapter stands for.
Great, thank you. So, Hayden, as I said in the beginning, you are a pre-med student. You want to become a doctor. You're, of course,
Yes.
pro-life. But how do these components intersect in your life?
So I'm not a med student yet. I'm just a pre-med student. But there's this thing in medicine called the Hippocratic Oath. And like, I don't remember the exact wording of the oath, but the summation of it is to not do any harm and to always treat patients like trying to save their life. Like don't neglect and don't harm. And I think that every single doctor should follow that. And I know that a lot today don't, because our patients in the womb are not treated with the human dignity that born patients are treated with. And to a lesser extent, elderly patients aren't treated to like with the dignity that they should be treated with as well, because they're viewed as less than like middle-aged and young adults. But especially, you know, preborn people are not treated with the dignity they deserve. So that state of medicine right now, in which preborn people are like neglected, that really just fires me up, I guess, because I don't understand how you can have a baby who hasn't been born yet and just treat them differently because they haven't been born yet. So that's just something that we need to work on as a medical community. But I guess that answers the question of how that kind of intersects into my life. I'm very obviously passionate about saving babies. So I just want to push that even further and save babies medically. If that answers your question.
Do you also want to become a gynecologist? I know it's very early to ask this question, but yeah.
So originally that was not the plan. I wanted to be a pediatrician. And before that, I wanted to be an oncologist, and I wanted to be an endocrinologist at one point. So I've switched around a little bit. But going into college, I wanted to do pediatrics. And of course, I was still going to get to work with babies as a pediatrician, but just after they were born. But then I was in my biology class first year, first semester, and we were going over like fetal development. And that was the one day, I love biology, but that was the one day where I was completely focused on the class. Because the rest of the days I would get a little zoned out sometimes. But that one day when we were doing fetal development, I was completely focused. And my friend told me, why don't you just become an OBGYN? I was like, I've never really thought about it, but maybe I would enjoy that. And the more I thought about it, the more I was like, maybe I do want to do that, because I'm very passionately pro-life, and I would get to work with babies not after they were born, but before they were born. And I would get to help their mothers and support them through whatever they had going on. And I would get to deliver babies and like bring life into the world. And I was just like, wow, that is beautiful. Of course, there's downsides to that job, but there's downsides with every job. And overall, I I think that is my plan for now. I haven't even gotten out of undergrad yet. I still have to do medical school. Could change my mind, but for now, yes, that's the plan.
Wow, wonderful, wonderful. I think this is, and this should be an encouragement for other pro-life medical students here in Romania, because here we don't have this differentiation between pre-med and then medical school. It's just medical school. So yeah. I have a more challenging question for you now.
Okay.
Life begins at conception, right? And this is a big truth. Do you think this is enough, though, to convince people of the pro-life position? If yes, why? If not, why not? What does it mean? What does it miss if it's not enough?
So I think it should be enough to convince people of the pro-life message, but currently I don't think it is enough. And I'll explain why.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously life begins at conception. Everybody agrees on that. I don't remember what the statistic is. 96 or 97% of scientists agree that life begins at conception. And the majority of those are pro-abortion, but they recognize that life begins at conception. That's just a scientific fact. Like that's one of the first things you learn in biology in middle school or high school. But I think the world and the abortion mafia, if you will, has done a lot to discount when life begins. So, now you have people who they say they don't know when life begins, or they say, well, it's a human being technically, but it's just a clump of cells. It's not a person yet. And that doesn't really make sense. That's not logical, but that's what so many people have been conditioned to believe. So, like, the fact that life begins at conception should be enough, because you don't want to kill anybody. And like, if we can agree that a human being from the moment of conception is alive, then we should agree that abortion is murder. But unfortunately, that's not the case now. So we have to do more than just say life begins at conception. We have to keep pushing our message forward and just keep bringing up a lot of pro-life apologetics. Does that make sense? Did I answer the question?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I was just making sure, because I know that I got a little bit off of the original thing. So I was just making sure that I answered you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting, this differentiation between it should be enough, because obviously it's life there. Life should be protected, and nowadays it's not enough. But what do you think should be done? What else? Is there something more that should be done on our part?
That is a great question. There's more we need to do, for sure. I don't know if the more we need to do is what we've been doing and just keep persisting, or if there's somewhere else we need to go. I think we need to be more active, actually on the ground in the community. So like pro-life door knocking, Students for Life does that. Actually get involved with writing bills, like in your state legislature, sorry. And just things like that. Something else I've noticed is like commercials and billboards.
Mm-hmm.
Those are ways that you can reach like thousands or millions of people. And like, it could just be a simple message, but if it's a pro-life message, you could change like so many hearts and minds.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's one thing we for sure need to do more of, is have more pro-life commercials and more pro-life billboards, because like tons and tons of people see those.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, just be more physically active in our communities, actually spreading the pro-life message. And I have one more thing that I just thought about. So Catholic churches and Orthodox churches do like so much pro-life activism. That's something I really respect about both of those branches. I'm a Protestant, but I've noticed that a lot of Protestant churches try to shy away from abortion. Like they're pro-life, but they don't. They stand for life, but sometimes we don't actually stand up and do much for life. We'll have our baby bottle drive where we fill up a baby bottle with coins and then we donate it to the Pregnancy Resource Center and then we're done. And that's our pro-life activism for the year. It's not a lifestyle, I guess, for a lot of Protestants. And obviously I'm not throwing shade to any Protestants because I am a Protestant. But I think that's something that like the Protestant churches need to work on specifically. That was just a little side note that I had.
Oh, well, that's very good to hear because I'm Orthodox, so this is quite this is wonderful. You notice this.
Have a friend.
Yeah.
I actually have a friend who is Romanian Orthodox. He lives in Idaho, like in the United States, and his church does so much like pro-life activism. So I really applaud y'all for that.
Thank you. What is your message for the young generation today, for young people?
My message would be just know what you're fighting for. You're fighting for life. You're fighting for babies to have a chance at life. You're fighting for mothers who like might face unplanned or crisis pregnancies. You're fighting to support women and children. You're fighting for the truth, and you're fighting for God. So when you know that you're standing up for all of these good things, it's a lot easier to stay motivated to keep going with your pro-life activism. I guess that's my short, sweet, to the point answer. I could go more in depth, but really you're fighting the good fight. So don't let anybody tell you you're not. Don't try to fit into the world because we cannot blend into the world. We were born to stand out, to be set apart, and that's exactly what we need to do. So
thank you, Hayden, very much for the wonderful words you said and for spreading the good message, for spreading the pro-life message. It's so important.
Thank you.
And I think people feel like there's a huge community, like a global network of pro-life people who can build things together. Everyone in their area where God planted them, but knowing that we have each other. So thank you very much for being here with us on the podcast.
And thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
It was really a pleasure. And everybody else, thank you for watching. We'll see you at another episode with another guest who shares the message of life.